We're in Chicopee, Massachusetts at the Maple Grove Cemetery, and a lot of maple trees are around, but they're dying. That's sad. We're going to have lots of stops inside of here, and I'll mention some of the important stops. Mostly we're looking for unique gravestones, or the oldest gravestones, or where the paupers were, or where the babies were, and maybe explain why some of these plots are raised up. So what I mean by that is, look to your right hand side and you'll see that the Burnett family is up on a raised surface compared to land around it, and then right behind it the Ballard surface. There's about 40 raised land pieces around here, and they keep going on, raising them up, which is by the end not good, because when water runs off, it runs and pushes against the soil. It's called solifluction. And what happens is, anything that's on a raised surface, that's at an angle of that raised surface, is going to be pushed, and there's enough push after 100 years to knock over these stones. So it's always better to have a flat surface inside a cemetery. Now, most cemeteries, if they had these raised surfaces, got rid of them. This one never did. They had the opportunity in the 1970s to do that, and they didn't get rid of them, and so there's a problem here. Now, this is also the town cemetery, and so you're going to see a lot of paupers buried here in a potter's field, right? But you have a lot of famous people, because remember, this is the center of Chicopee, and so the person that made, for instance, the Chicopee Canal, he's buried here, all right? So there's a parking area here, and the road surface does not go very far. So what we're going to do is tell you by sections what is around. So this will count as a general introduction, and so thus you can take a walking tour, but not a driving tour through this cemetery. And probably don't drive on the grass surfaces, even though the hearse and the grave workers can. Probably you shouldn't. But I'll tell you the areas. You're looking at an area to the quadrant that is where the potter's field will be. Down this road is potter's field next to the fence below, and there might be 1,000 people in that potter's field. Most of them, 80% of them, are children, because 120 years ago, when the mill town of Chicopee was getting larger and larger, a lot of immigrants came in, and it was very dangerous to live in crowded quarters, and babies suffered by far the most. And thus, a lot of children are down there. Now, also in this quadrant, we're going to have a stop down there. There's one section where there's a person buried with a very close wrought iron metal fence around it. And that is probably to deter grave diggers trying to steal bodies. All right, now there's also inside here, the Eames brothers are buried here. Okay, what I'm going to do in front of us, also with a wrought iron fence around it for a good reason, because that's probably the most important family buried here. It's the John Chase family. John Chase is the person that designed and constructed the Chicopee Center Canal. He also was hired to construct the Holyoke Canal system and the Holyoke Dam. And for that reason, he made two of the most important power canals in the history of Massachusetts. Sadly, his stone collapsed. When I found it about a dozen years ago, I was able to move upright, and so there it is against another stone, but it deserves to be fixed and be perfectly upright. I'm not strong enough anymore to move it anymore. Now, there's a nice wrought iron fence around it, and part of that is broken too. So Chicopee could really use an upgrade in the cemetery, such as might be provided by a Community Preservation Act grant. All right. Also in that section, a little bit more to the right, a lot of the veterans are buried that died due to injuries or illnesses acquired during the war. For instance, there's a brown obelisk out there, and that brown obelisk honors a man that died during the Civil War. and next to him is another stone where another man is buried, who also died during the course of the Civil War. All right, and then also over there, there's many other family plots, and I think they're not as quite as rich as the other family plots around this area. Okay, so it's a great cemetery to wander around. I'm going to have many stops in there, and I want you to really, really look at them. And even the neighborhood itself on Auburn Street and out is interesting because there's 3 schools in a row. And just walking around out there is going to be very, very instructive. All right, so what we're going to do is finish by going out of the cemetery, and you're going to watch many other things as we go out towards our right, because remember I told you the Ames brothers are buried here. Okay, so I'll point out where they are. Now, there was an attempt in the past to repair a lot of these graves, and that occurred about 50 years ago. And what happened was they hired their own Department of Public Workers, and they didn't have much experience on how to repair gravestones, and so they didn't do the high quality job that really, really is needed around here. Okay. Now, there's 2 Ames brothers. Nathan Ames is buried against the fence over there far to our right as you leave out. But his brother is right next to us. Okay, so keep those 2 on your list of visits you should really go into. And look at a lot of these old, beautiful stones. Okay, now there's one plot right here to our far right, or a little bit to the right, which is a little flower garden circle made for veterans of foreign wars. And you're going to be able to see there some of the veterans, and also you get to see a lot of these old gravestones. Now, this cemetery was made in 1838, and any stone before 1850 would have a footstone to it. And you don't get to see footstones anymore here. A lot of them were taken away. They weren't thought to be necessary. By the 1890s, people were saying, oh, get rid of them. But that's sad because they really, really should be around. Now you see one more, or 2 more, one with a wrought iron gate around it to the far, far right in the sun. And that one, I'm just going to mention that the Ames brothers were great at making iron products, wrought iron, and a lot of them are here. I bet you the Ames brother and the Ames company made a lot of those materials. Okay, and to mention the last thing, I'll pull back a little bit. To our left, there's a stone there where the stone was taken and embedded into concrete. That was their way of improving it. Nowadays, that would never be done. They use a special material to support it, and at least it's preserved. All the pieces are preserved in the concrete. But if you're really going to do it right, you should break them out and put them together again, and put them together with very strong material, and then you'll have it back in its true look. All right, so I hope you visit this cemetery whenever you can. It's a very interesting place. Thank you.